Hi, I'm Kelly Howard, N6PNY, and I'm here in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the home of a living legend, a man who has dedicated his whole life to making this country a better place to live. His name is Senator Barry M. Goldwater, and he even does have his own radio station. Let's see it and meet him right now on Today's People.
BBC World Service.
Radio Australia.
Radio Canada International. Hello.
You spend a lot of time here. What do you use the most?
Well, being an amateur first is my strictly amateur radio. This is Kenwood, and that's an oscilloscope made by Kenwood, and that's a Heathkit antenna tuner made by me, and that's a little gadget that selects one of 4 antennas without having to go up and rewire it, a barometer, and that's up there tells me about the 110 volt. When it gets a little off, it turns on a red light.
What was the first thing that made you interested in ham radio?
I guess I could say it was because of the real close friendship amongst the hams. And mind you, we didn't have many hams when I was 13. I think there were 6 in the whole state. The fact that we could talk a common language. The man I had my first job with was an automobile mechanic at the Chevrolet garage. And after working at night, he'd fool around with the wireless. And I worked for him. That we talk the same language. And that's been the way you'll find out no matter where you go and you run into a ham, you can sit right down and talk.
How has ham radio affected your life?
I don't think I can give you a real solid definitive answer, except I learned that people could talk to each other. And I learned that people you didn't even know had a common interest in something you had interest in. And I don't care what language they spoke, you would eventually break it down. I think that's the greatest thing I learned out of ham radio. It's just that anybody can talk to anybody else. And the language doesn't mean much difference.
What is the most important thing to you as a man?
Be honest. Never try to tell a lie. Because if you ever tell a lie, you'll spend the rest of your life trying to get out of it. So I think that's the most important thing I've learned in my life. It's just do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
What are the most interesting things that you have done in your lifetime?
I've run an amateur radio station from the South Pole, 200 feet under the ice. And I phone patched a lot of the troops down there through to their families in America. I've flown over the North Pole. I've been in every country on Earth. I've always managed to get a rig that I could talk to somebody on. I think communication has been the part of my life that I cherish, because I've learned a lot from it.
As a teenager growing up in the 80s, what do you think you would take an interest in?
If I were born again and had the same deep interest in what makes things work, yeah, I'd be very interested in ham radio, because I can't think of another service. I don't like to call it a hobby, although it is, but we give a lot of service too. I can't think of another service that's so rewarding. I don't know of a young person that I've met that doesn't have a deep interest in something.
How do you feel others view you from afar?
Well, I think if they're in the right mind, they'd never want to be me. Along with all the things I was able to do and the things that I enjoyed, I had to live away from my wife and my children. And I never liked that a bit. But it had to come. If you do something that you feel very deeply about, you pay a little bit for it.
You're talking to a lot of young Americans like me. What do you want to say to us?
Well, I think in a general way, the most important thing I not only can say, but I try to educate them, is to be constantly curious about things. What makes that work? Well, the average person doesn't give a damn. But maybe one young kid would like to know how you can tune an antenna from a box. So you can tell him, and once he gets interested in that, then the chances are he'll ask questions about other things. Now, they all are not going to ask questions about communication. Some of them want to talk about airplanes, or about boats, or fishing, hunting, just so they have an interest that keeps their mind busy. When you have an active mind, you're not going to find that mind soaking up dope or whiskey. And I found that to be true.